Hey guys, this is a book from scdm.org. If you guys want to check out scdm. I believe it's .org. Um, it is one of the more concise pieces of information that you're going to get. Here, I'm scrolling through a bunch of the the notes, the table of contents. This is called requirement for consent, as you can see here. Um, the ideal tyranny is that which ignorantly self-administrates administered by its victim. The most perfect slaves are therefore those which blissfully and unawarely enslave themselves because of their own legal ignorance. It's so beautiful and so important for this day and time. Um, I want to put a disclaimer out there is that this is a Christian website and they're Christian based. So, um, you know, yeah, that's it. If you want to get any of this, like you can become a member of the ministry and sign up and become a member, and you can download this for yourself. They do have their copyrights, and so this is not mine. This is theirs, and hopefully, I don't get in trouble because I'm actually doing this out of a pure heart, um, and in truth, in my best. And so, from what I understand, I don't think that it's something that we can't do. Um, but I just want to put that out there just so that you guys are aware. I just want to this I've been sitting on this for a long time, and I want to make sure I just get some information out there to you guys that might be helpful for you. And I know that when I went to their website and looked at some of the stuff and was able to listen, there's like they have on their SEDM website, they do have a couple of these where they go over it for themselves. But if you check out the table comments, excuse me, table contents, talks about the essence of sovereignty, the meaning of justice, and consent from a religious perspective, the true meaning of voluntary, your power to contract, things you cannot lawfully consent to, how people voluntarily enslave themselves, government and consent, etc., etc. It goes on, and it's very, very beautiful, guys. It's very beautiful information, and I think that you are really going to enjoy it as we get into it. So, without further ado, we're gonna scroll down and um, get ourselves to the first page. Out of the scriptures here. I mean, just lots and lots of footnotes here, guys. So we're going to start here. The essence of sovereignty is consent. This memorandum of law will cover the requirement for consent as the foundation of our system of law and government. Why is this subject important? Because we assert that there are only two types of governments: a government by consent and a terrorist government. The government by consent, this type of government serves the people from below. And here they quote Matthew 10:42 and 45. But Jesus called to himself and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many." That's the New King James Version. And then we have a terrorist government, guys. This type of government rules from above by force or fraud or both, and always results in idolatry towards government. This type of government is described as the beast in Revelations 19:19. Then all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah and said to him, "Look, you are old and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations and to be over them." But this thing displeased Samuel when they said, give us a king to judge us. So Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord said to Samuel, "Heed the voice of the people and all that they say to you, for they have rejected me, God, that I should not reign over them. According to all the works that they have done since the day that I brought them out of Egypt, even to this day, with which they have forsaken me and served other gods, kings in this case, so they are doing to you also, the government becoming idolatry. Now therefore heed their voice. However, you shall solemnly forewarn them and show them the behavior of the king who will reign over them. So Samuel told all the words of the Lord to the people and who asked him for a king. And he said, this will be the behavior of the king who will reign over you. He will steal your sons and appoint them for his own chariots and to be his horsemen. And some will run before his chariots. He will appoint captains over his thousands and captains over his 50s. He will set some to plow his ground and reap his harvest, and some to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. He will steal your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers, and he will steal the best of your fields and your vineyards and your olive groves and give them to his officers and servants. And he will steal your male servants and your female servants, your finest young men and your donkeys, and put them to his work as slaves. And he will steal a tenth of your sheep. And you will be his servants, and you will cry out in that day because of your king whom you have chosen for yourselves. And the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Consistent with the above, Funk and Wagnalls defines terrorism as follows. Terrorism, the act of terrorizing, a system of government that seeks to rule by intimidation, violent and unlawful acts of violence committed in an organized attempt to overthrow a government. This is the original pre-Orwellian definition of the word terrorism, 1946. In the American Republican form of government, the requirement for consent in all human interactions is the essence and the foundation of all sovereignty as human beings. Only by consenting to become persons or individuals from a statutory perspective can we be detached from that sovereignty. And here we go, reading the City of Dallas versus Mitchell, 245 Southwest, or SW 944 in 1922. The rights of the individuals are not derived from governmental agencies, neither municipal, state, or federal, nor even from the Constitution. They exist inherently in every man by endowment of their Creator, and are merely reaffirmed in the Constitution and restricted only to the extent that they have been voluntarily surrendered by the citizenship, domicile, not nationality, to the agencies of the government. The people's rights are not derived from government, but the government's authority comes from the people. The Constitution but states again these rights already existing. And when the legislative encroachment by nation, state, or municipality invade these original and permanent rights, it is the duty of the courts to so declare and to afford the necessary relief. The fewer restrictions that surround the individual liberties of the citizen, except for the preservation of the public health, safety, and morals, the more consented the people and the more successful the democracy. That is again 1922. We have, our government is founded upon compact. Sovereignty was and is in the people. This is Glass versus Sloop Betsy, 3 Dow, U.S., 1794. In common usage, the term person does not include the sovereign, and statutes employing the word are ordinarily construed to exclude it. That is 1979. Person does not include the sovereign, so if you want to be sovereign, then technically you're not a person. You can have a person, but it does not include the sovereign. Homo vocabulum est naturae persona juris civilis. Man, homo, is a term of nature, person, persona, of civil law. The word person, and that was Black's Law Dictionary. The word person in legal terminology is perceived as a general word which normally includes in its scope a variety of entities other than human beings. Search of Scientology versus the Department of Justice, 1979. 1.1, here we go, guys. Requirement for consent is the foundation of our system of civil law. This requirement for consent of the governed is also the foundation of our system of law, starting with the Declaration of Independence and going down from there. Anything not consensual is, by definition, unjust per the organic law. Right? I mean, that makes sense. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's the Declaration of Independence. Some people ignorantly argue that the Declaration of Independence cited above is not the law. And they would be wrong, according to this. The very first enactment of Congress on page 1 of volume 1 of the statutes at large incorporated the Declaration of Independence as the laws of this country. Declaration of Independence. It's part of the law, guys. Don't believe us on this critical point? Watch Judge Andrew Napolitano say the same thing. He also says that the law is the most violated provision of the law in existence. Let me see if we can go here. I don't know if we can. How do I get out of this text one? I don't want the text one. Just regular. Here we go. Exhibit 03006. Let's check this out. Exhibit 03006. 03006.
All right, two more serious trials of guilt or innocence, and to my topic, which is the natural law. When Thomas More had his last opportunity to address something for posterity and knew that his effort would be futile, he was defending himself in his trial for treason. So he's the defendant and the lawyer. The alleged and proven act of treason was silence. The refusal to assert affirmatively and in writing that the king was the head of the church on earth. He made the following argument to the jury. Now, he knew the jury had been handpicked by the king's judges, and the king's judges had been handpicked by the king. He knew that he was going to lose this. He knew he was going to be found guilty. He knew he would be executed, and the execution method was beheading. Some men say the earth is round, and some men say it is flat. But if it is flat, could the king's command make it round? And if it is round, could an act of parliament make it flat? Now, when he was making that argument, he, of course, was not only appealing to the jurors' common sense. Of course, the king couldn't make a flat earth round, and of course, the parliament couldn't make a round earth flat. He was appealing to their understanding of the laws of nature that restrain even the government at the time. Henry VIII, who was about to have him beheaded, and the parliament, which was the facilitator in his beheading. So his choice between remaining mute at his trial and being convicted, or taking a stand for something as affirmative as the limitations on the government, he exercised that choice by giving this now classic statement of the natural law. Fast forward to the present day. When More said that, this was not a novel argument. He is not the originator of the argument of the natural law. The modern day, it's 800 years ago, but the modern day originator is St. Thomas Aquinas, still the best explainer of the natural law. But John Locke picked up on this, and Thomas Jefferson picked up on it when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and James Madison picked up on it when he was the scrivener for the Constitution. Jefferson's version of More's phrase is this: we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if Jefferson's correct, if this isn't just some musing, and by the way, the Declaration of Independence is a statute enacted by the Congress. If you go to the first book of the U.S. Code and go to the first page, you'll see there the Declaration of Independence. Probably the most violated statute by the government that we have, even though it's the first and the oldest. But it articulates the view that our rights come from our humanity. What are these rights that come from our humanity? And if they come from our humanity, how can the government trample them? Well, the concept of natural rights articulated by Aquinas is this: that there are areas of human behavior for which we do not need a government permission slip in order to make free choices in those areas. So things like the freedom to develop your personality, I told O'Reilly he should be grateful for that freedom. The freedom to develop your personality, the right to think as you wish, the right to say what you think, the right to publish your thoughts, the right to worship or not to worship, the right to assemble in groups, the right to refuse to assemble in groups, the right to petition the government for a redress of your differences, the right to defend yourself. I must tell you, the right to defend yourself, the right to keep and bear arms, does not protect your right to shoot deer. It protects your right to shoot at the government when it is taken over by tyrants. These are the quintessential American right. I'm going down the Bill of Rights. The quintessential American right. The right to be left alone. Codified in the Fourth Amendment. Today called the right to privacy. Codified in the Fourth Amendment. We all know what has happened to privacy.